The freezing wind cut across Ethan Cole's face. The weary soldier in his 40s wore a faded camouflage uniform, shoulders stiff under the weight of cold and memory. His boots crushed through the hard snow. The road was empty, lined with dead trees and abandoned barns. Beside him moved Rex, his loyal German shepherd, K9. The dog's breath steamed in the air, ears flicking at every sound. They had survived deployments, ambushes, and nights when the ground shook with fire. Now they were alone on a silent road, home but never at peace. Ethan touched the brass locket under his coat. He didn't cling to it anymore, but the small oval reminded him of Sarah, his wife, gone too soon. The cold metal was the only warmth on nights like this. Then he heard it. A sound almost stolen by the wind. A whimper. He stopped. Rex froze, hackles raised, eyes locked ahead. The sound came again, softer, desperate. Ethan followed it down into a ditch buried in snow. Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from. Leave your country name in the comments below. And if you love stories about courage, loyalty, and community, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next stories. There, half hidden by frozen branches, lay a tiny puppy. Its fur was caked with ice, paws bleeding, ribs sharp under its thin coat. A cracked leather collar clung loosely around its neck, a small tag, bent and dulled by frost. The puppy tried to stand, stumbled, and fell back into the snow. Its whimper broke something in Ethan's chest. He had seen children caught in crossfire, civilians starved by war, comrades bleeding out in dust. But this small creature, fighting alone against winter, hit deeper than bullets. He set his rifle against the ditch wall and knelt. "Easy, little one." His gloved hands slid under the frail body. The puppy weighed almost nothing. Its heart raced wildly against his palm. Rex lowered his head, sniffing carefully, tail wagging slow. The big dog's gentleness drew a faint whine from the pup, as though it sensed safety for the first time in days. Ethan pulled the pup against his chest, wrapping his coat around it. The shivering slowed, but the tiny body was still fragile, breath shallow. The soldier rubbed its fur, willing heat into the bones. For a moment, Ethan wasn't on this frozen road. He was in a dim living room years ago, swaddling his daughter Hope during a power outage. Sarah had been there, smiling, humming a lullaby. The memory hit him hard. He blinked it away, focusing on the present. The collar pressed against his hand. He brushed the ice from the tag. A name appeared, but only half of it was legible. The rest was scratched beyond recognition. Something about the style of the engraving tugged at his memory, though he couldn't place it. The pup licked his thumb weakly, as if begging him not to let go. Ethan adjusted his grip. "You're safe now." Rex pressed close, nose brushing the pup's fur. The three of them stood in the ditch while the wind howled. Soldier, war dog, and lost puppy, an unlikely formation, but for that moment, a unit bound by survival. Ethan climbed back onto the road, the puppy hidden under his coat. His cabin was a mile away, a place barely big enough for him and Rex, but it had warmth and food. That would be enough for tonight. Snowflakes lashed his face as he walked. Each step crunched loudly in the silence. The puppy whimpered once, then went quiet, too exhausted to cry. Ethan kept moving, his body acting like a shield. They were halfway back when Rex stopped dead. The shepherd's growl rumbled low, head fixed on the tree line. Ethan followed his gaze. Footprints, fresh, sharp in the snow, not his, not Rex's. They led from the road into the dark woods. Ethan's instincts kicked in. Someone had been here minutes ago. The prints were deep, the stride heavy. Whoever it was, they weren't wandering. They were tracking, or fleeing. The puppy stirred uneasily under his coat, its tiny claws pressed against Ethan's chest. The soldier shifted his rifle strap over his shoulder. His free hand brushed the locket. Sarah's memory steadied him, as it always did before decisions he couldn't take back. He glanced at Rex. The dog's body was coiled, waiting for command. Snow swirled harder now, turning the woods into shadows. Ethan weighed his options. Keep walking to safety or follow the prints and discover who else walked this frozen road tonight. He felt the small heartbeat against his chest, the fragile warmth depending on him. Yet the collar's broken tag gnawed at him like unfinished business. He crouched, studying the tracks. They cut straight into the forest, no hesitation. Whoever left them knew the land. A sound cracked the silence, faint, distant, unmistakable. A branch snapping under weight. Ethan's pulse tightened. He rose, shifting the puppy gently. Rex growled, low and certain. The forest loomed black. The soldier narrowed his eyes. Saving the puppy wasn't the end, it was the start of something larger. He tightened his grip on his coat, shielding the pup, and stepped forward. Behind the trees another crunch echoed, footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming closer. The crunch of footsteps in the forest grew clearer. Ethan Cole shifted the puppy in his arms, pulling his coat tighter around its fragile body. The pup whimpered softly, burying its nose into his chest. Rex, the German Shepherd K9, stood rigid at his side, ears locked forward, a low growl rolling from deep inside his throat. Ethan raised a hand, signaling silence. The snowstorm covered distant sounds, but whoever was in the woods wasn't far. The footprints led straight from the road into darkness. He whispered, "Stay close, Rex." The soldier stepped carefully, his boots sinking into deep snow. His breath clouded in the cold air. Each step made the weight of the rifle on his shoulder heavier. He had no interest in trouble, but war had taught him that ignoring signs often cost lives. A shadow moved between the trees. Ethan froze. Rex bristled. For a long moment, the forest went still except for the wind. Then another crack, a branch snapping under weight. "Show yourself," Ethan called, his voice calm but edged with warning. No answer. He lowered the puppy into the crook of one arm and slid the rifle strap free with his other hand. His finger rested near the trigger guard, not yet inside. The last thing he wanted was violence, but instinct pressed him to be ready. The shadow moved again, this time closer. Rex barked once, sharp, commanding. Snow fell from the branches above as the echo rolled through the trees. Finally, a figure stepped into the faint light. Not a soldier, not a hunter. A man in his 50s, wrapped in a torn coat, beard thick with frost. His eyes were sunken, face gaunt. He carried no weapon, only a stick he used as a cane. Ethan didn't lower his guard. "Who are you?" The man raised a hand weakly. "Name's Walter Briggs. I don't mean harm." His voice cracked, dry from thirst. "I was just looking for the dog." Ethan's grip tightened around the puppy. "This one?" He pulled the collar into the light. Walter's face twitched at the sight. Not joy, not relief, something darker. A memory, maybe. His hand lowered, trembling. Where did you find it?" "In the ditch by the road," Ethan said. "It wouldn't have lasted the night." Walter staggered closer. Rex blocked his path with a growl. Ethan made no move to call him off. The old man stopped, staring at the puppy. His eyes glistened. "That collar doesn't belong to you." Ethan studied him carefully. "No, but it doesn't look like it belongs to you either." The tag gleamed under the moonlight, half the letters scratched beyond recognition. Walter's eyes avoided it, as though he couldn't bear the sight. The puppy stirred in Ethan's coat, pressing tiny claws into his chest. He looked down. The animal was fading, eyelids heavy, body weak. It needed warmth, food, care, soon. "This pup won't survive long," Ethan said. "You know where it came from?" Walter's voice dropped to a whisper. "From a home that doesn't exist anymore, burned down years ago, everyone gone." He paused, lips trembling. "Except the dog." The snow swirled harder, wind shrieking through the trees. Ethan tightened his coat. "If that's true, why leave it out here alone?" Walter shook his head. "I didn't, someone else did. I've been tracking it since yesterday. It slipped through the woods. But the collar. He stopped, swallowing hard. The collars cursed. Ethan frowned. Cursed? The old man's eyes darted toward the tag. Whoever touches it learns the truth, and the truth breaks you. Ethan almost laughed. Almost. But something in Walter's voice wasn't madness, it was pain. Deep.
Raw. Old. He adjusted the puppy against his chest. Truth or not, this dog is coming with me. It needs help, not stories. Walter reached forward with a shaking hand. Rex bared his teeth, snapping the air with a warning growl. The old man froze, fear flashing across his face. Ethan turned, stepping back toward the road. Go home, Walter, if you have one. But Walter called after him, voice desperate against the wind. Soldier, don't look at the inside of the tag. If you read what's carved there, you'll wish you hadn't. The words followed Ethan as he marched away. He didn't look back. Snow pounded harder, erasing Walter's figure into the storm. Ethan walked fast, boots crunching, Rex guarding close. The puppy whimpered, then quieted, pressed tightly against his chest. At last, the cabin came into view. A small wooden frame, barely more than a shelter, its windows glowing faintly with the heat of a fire left smouldering. Ethan pushed inside, stamping snow from his boots. The warmth hit him instantly, though it did little to thaw the unease Walter's words had left behind. He laid the puppy on a folded blanket by the fire. Rex settled nearby, watching with protective eyes. Ethan removed his coat and knelt, checking the pup's paws. Cuts, frostbite starting, ribs sharp, but the little heart still beat. Hang on, kid, Ethan muttered. He poured warm water into a small dish, sliding it close. The pup lapped weakly, then collapsed again, exhausted. Ethan studied the collar under the firelight, the cracked leather, the broken tag. He turned it carefully, brushing away dirt. On the back of the metal, faint scratches carved by hand, letters, words. Half of it was still clear, enough to read. Ethan froze, his stomach dropped as though the floor had vanished beneath him. The puppy stirred in its sleep, unaware of the weight pressing on the soldier's chest. Rex whined softly, sensing his partner's shift. The fire snapped loudly, throwing sparks into the air. Ethan stared at the carved letters, his hand trembling. It was a name he knew. The letters caught the firelight. Ethan turned the tag again, wiping away soot with his thumb. At first, he thought his mind was playing tricks, but the name was clear enough, even through the scratches. Hope. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His daughter's name. He gripped the tag tighter, the metal cutting into his palm. Hope Cole. She would have been 13 now if the world had not taken Sarah from him and left Hope with relatives far away. Letters had stopped coming 2 years ago. Too much distance, too much silence. But what was her name doing on a half-broken collar around the neck of a starving puppy found on a frozen road? Ethan's jaw clenched. Memories stormed back. Hope as a toddler, clinging to his leg before deployments. Her laugh when Rex first licked her face. Her voice over the phone, small but strong. Come home soon, Daddy. The room spun. He steadied himself, sitting heavily by the fire. Rex nudged his arm, sensing the crack in his armor. The puppy stirred on the blanket, giving a soft cry. Ethan whispered, "Why this name? Why now?" Walter's words echoed in his skull. The collar's cursed. Whoever touches it learns the truth, and the truth breaks you. He wanted to dismiss it as madness, yet here he sat, staring at his daughter's name carved into metal he had never seen before. He poured more water for the pup, forcing himself to focus. Its tiny tongue flicked weakly. Life was fragile, but still fighting. Ethan reached for a scrap of jerky, soaked it in water, and offered it piece by piece. The pup chewed slowly, eyes fluttering with effort. "You've got some fight left," Ethan murmured. "That's good. You'll need it." The fire popped, sending sparks into the air. Outside, wind battered the walls. For a moment,
The cabin felt like a fortress against the storm, yet inside Ethan's chest the storm only grew. He set the collar aside, but his eyes kept drifting back to it. The engraving wasn't new. The edges were worn, lines shallow from years of rubbing against fur. This tag had been made long before tonight. Someone had carved his daughter's name deliberately. But who? And why attach it to this puppy? He pulled the locket from under his shirt, flipping it open. Inside was the faded photograph of Sarah holding baby Hope. He studied the face of his child, comparing the letters in his memory to the ones on the tag. The match was undeniable. Same spelling, same curves. Rex whined low, resting his head on Ethan's knee. The dog's eyes were steady, grounding him. Ethan stroked his ear absent-mindedly. "What are you trying to tell me, boy? What's the truth here?" A sudden knock broke the silence. 3 sharp raps against the cabin door. Ethan froze. He had told no one he was here. Rex leapt to his feet, growling, body between the door and the puppy. The knock came again, slower this time. He slid his rifle close and moved to the door, heart pounding. "Who's there?" His voice was steady, but his hand tightened around the handle. No answer, only the howl of the wind. He opened the door an inch, rifle raised. The storm blew snow inside, stinging his face. At first, he saw nothing. Then footprints on the porch leading into the woods. Fresh, deeper than before, he stepped outside, scanning the darkness. "Walter!" he called. Still nothing, only branches shifting under the weight of snow. He shut the door firmly, bolting it. His chest ached with unease. Someone had been here, someone who wanted him to know it. Back at the fire, the puppy stirred again. Its paw slid forward, brushing the collar where it lay on the floor. Ethan picked it up, turning it over once more. Beneath the name, he noticed something he had missed before. Tiny etched numbers. Coordinates. His pulse quickened. He grabbed a map from the shelf, unfolding it on the table. Rex jumped up, tail stiff, as Ethan traced the numbers. The coordinates pointed to a spot only a few miles north, deep in the woods. Why there? His thoughts raced. Whoever carved the tag had left a message. The name Hope wasn't just coincidence, it was a trail. And now it led him straight into the wilderness. He sat back, rubbing his temples. He could ignore it, focus on keeping the puppy alive. But he knew himself too well. A soldier doesn't leave a mission half done, especially not when his daughter's name is at the heart of it. The puppy whimpered, curling tighter into the blanket. Ethan lifted it gently, cradling it in his arms. He whispered, "Don't worry, I won't let you down." Rex sat beside him, steady and loyal as always. Ethan stared into the fire, the collar clutched in his hand. The truth waited in the woods, and part of him feared Walter had been right. The puppy's paw twitched in its sleep, pressing against the engraved name, Hope, while outside, fresh snow buried the footprints of whoever had knocked on the door. The fire burned low, crackling against the silence. Ethan Cole sat at the table, the collar heavy in his hand. The etched name, Hope, stared back at him, and beneath it, the faint numbers, coordinates. He traced them again on the map spread across the table. A red mark formed where his pencil pressed, deep inside the northern woods, near an old hunting ground, a place no one used anymore, not since the floods 5 years ago. Ethan's gut tightened. Someone had wanted him to find this. Rex paced the cabin, restless, ears twitching. The German Shepherd K9 sensed the shift in the air. The puppy stirred on the blanket, letting out a faint whimper, then settled again. Its tiny breaths were fragile, but steady. Ethan rubbed his face with both hands. He had promised himself no more chasing ghosts, no more following trails that led only to pain. But now the ghosts had come knocking at his own door. He looked at the photograph inside his locket, Sarah cradling baby Hope. He whispered, "What are you trying to tell me?" The answer, as always, was silence. Only the hiss of the fire. He stood, pulling on his coat. Rex perked up immediately. The soldier slung his rifle across his back, slipped the collar into his pocket, and looked once more at the puppy. "Stay strong, kid. I'll be back." The pup's paw twitched in its sleep, brushing the blanket as if clinging to his words. Ethan extinguished the lantern, leaving the fire dim but alive. He opened the door. The cold slammed against him instantly, snow swirling like shards of glass. Rex bounded into the storm ahead, nose to the ground. They followed the footprints from the porch until the wind erased them. Ethan pulled his scarf higher over his mouth, eyes fixed on the tree line. Every instinct told him to turn back, but the coordinates burned in his mind. The woods closed around them, branches heavy with snow. The silence was different here, denser, almost watching. Rex moved carefully, his body low, scanning every shadow. Ethan trusted his dog's instincts more than his own. After nearly an hour, they reached the marked spot. The storm had slowed, leaving the clearing eerily still. A ruined hunting cabin stood half-collapsed, roof caved under years of neglect. Its windows gaped like hollow eyes. Ethan raised his rifle, moving forward slowly. Rex circled wide, sniffing the ground. Inside, the air was thick with mildew and rot. Old furniture lay splintered, a table overturned, a rusted stove half buried in debris. Ethan's flashlight cut across the walls, revealing carved markings, words, names. He stepped closer, brushing frost away. Hope, Ava, Lily, Emma. Dozens of names scratched into the wood, some barely legible. Ethan's chest tightened. These weren't random. They were all names of children. Behind him, Rex barked once, sharp and urgent. Ethan spun. His beam caught movement in the corner. A figure slumped against the wall. It was Walter Briggs, the old man from the road. His coat was torn, face pale, eyes sunken deeper than before. He looked half dead, but he managed a rasping breath. "You followed," Walter croaked. Ethan crouched, rifle still ready. "What is this place? Why's my daughter's name here?" Walter coughed, blood flecking his lips. "Not just your daughter, all of them. Children. Taken. Marked." His trembling hand pointed weakly at the wall. "The collars, everyone carried a name, a warning, a memory." Ethan's blood ran cold. He pulled the collar from his pocket, shoving it close to Walter's face. "Who made this? Tell me." Walter's eyes flickered with pain. "A man, ex-soldier, same as you, lost his family in the war, said he'd build something new, said the world owed him children, if not his own." His voice cracked. "He carved their names. He made us watch." Ethan's stomach turned. "Where is he now?" Walter shook his head weakly. "Gone, but not far. The tracks you saw, his. He still hunts the woods." A sound outside snapped the air, footsteps crunching on frozen ground. Heavy, deliberate. Rex growled low, body rigid at the doorway. Ethan swung his rifle toward the sound. The clearing went quiet again. Too quiet. Only the wind whispered through broken boards. Ethan turned back, but Walter was gone. His body slumped lifeless, eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. The soldier's jaw tightened. He closed Walter's eyes with a gloved hand. Another casualty of secrets left too long in the dark. Outside, snow began to fall heavier, erasing tracks before they could be followed. Ethan scanned the tree line, finger brushing the trigger. Somewhere out there, the man Walter spoke of was watching, waiting. Rex pressed close to his leg, steady, but tense. Ethan whispered, "We're not leaving this unfinished." He looked once more at the wall of names, his daughters among them. And then, behind the whispering storm, came the sound again, the click of a rifle bolt sliding into place. The metallic sound of a rifle bolt echoed through the broken hunting cabin. Ethan Cole froze, back pressed to the rotten wall. Rex, his German shepherd K9, snarled low, body tense like a coiled spring. Ethan's breath fogged in the cold air. He slid his hand along the stock of his rifle, scanning the shattered doorway. Outside, snow drifted silently, erasing tracks as fast as they appeared. But someone was there, someone waiting. "Show yourself!" Ethan called, voice steady. A man's laugh answered, deep and harsh. From the shadows of the clearing stepped a figure wrapped in a black coat, taller than Ethan, shoulders squared. His beard was streaked with grey, his eyes sharp, alive with a strange fire. He carried a rifle easily, like an extension of his arm. "Soldier," the man said, "you found my message." Ethan raised his weapon. "You the one carving names into collars?" The man smirked. "Names aren't just letters, they're stories, memories. The world forgets children, I don't." Ethan's jaw tightened. "So you take them? You mark them like trophies?" The man stepped closer, boots crunching. "No, I preserve them. Every child abandoned, everyone left behind. I remember them when no one else will. That collar you found, it belonged to one of mine." Ethan gritted his teeth. "One of yours? You don't own them!" Rex barked, loud and sharp, shaking the rafters. The man's eyes flicked to the dog, then back to Ethan. "You think you're different?" the stranger said. "You left your daughter, didn't you? War took you away. Someone else raised her. Did she keep your name? Or did the world erase you too?" The words stabbed deeper than bullets. Ethan's grip tightened. "Say her name again and you won't get another breath." The man smiled faintly, lowering his rifle. "I don't need to. It's already carved." He pointed past Ethan toward the wall. The dozens of names etched into wood glared back, each a scar. Among them, hope. Ethan felt the weight of it pressing down. The man wasn't lying. Whoever he was, he knew things he shouldn't. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded. The man tilted his head. "Captain Marcus Hale. Once wore the same uniform you do, fought the same wars, buried the same friends. But when I came home, there was no family left, so I built one." He spread his arms to the wall of names. "These are mine now. The world may forget them, but I won't." "Not ever." "You're sick," Ethan snapped. "Children aren't ghosts to collect. They're lives, and you're using their names to feed whatever's left of you." Hale's smile hardened. "Maybe. But you can't deny it feels right, soldier. Holding that collar, seeing your daughter's name, it broke you, didn't it?" Ethan's rifle didn't waver. "No, it reminded me what's worth fighting for." The storm outside roared louder, rattling the walls. Rex barked again, snapping the tension. Hale's smile faded. "You won't stop me," Hale said. "The collars will keep coming. The names will keep growing, because the world keeps leaving children behind and I'll keep remembering them." Ethan's voice dropped to a growl. "Not if I end this now." For a moment, neither man moved. Only the storm spoke, snow slamming against the broken roof. Then Hale raised his rifle fast. Ethan dropped low, Rex lunging forward at the same instant. The cabin exploded with sound. A shot cracked the air, splinters bursting from the wall where Ethan's head had been. Rex clamped onto Hale's arm, dragging him sideways. Ethan rolled, rifle braced, and fired. The bullet tore through Hale's coat, knocking him back against the wall of names. Hale groaned, clutching his side, but his eyes burned hotter. "Kill me if you want," he spat, "but the truth won't die. The names won't die." Ethan advanced, rifle leveled. Rex stood over Hale, teeth bared, growl vibrating through the floor. "Listen to me," Ethan said, voice low but steady. "Children don't need you carving scars in their memory. They need people who fight for the living, not the dead." Hale coughed, blood staining his beard. His eyes flicked once more to the collar in Ethan's pocket. A twisted smile spread across his face. "You'll never escape it," Hale whispered. "That tag will haunt you, just like it haunted me." Ethan's finger tightened on the trigger, but before he could fire again, Hale jerked forward, grabbing a lantern from the floor. With his last strength, he hurled it against the wall. Flames burst, licking across the rotten wood. The names carved into the boards glowed red before the fire consumed them. Smoke filled the cabin instantly. "Rex, out!" Ethan barked. The dog obeyed, dragging Ethan toward the door. Hale's laugh echoed behind them, swallowed by fire. Ethan stumbled into the snow, smoke clinging to his coat. The cabin burned bright against the storm, collapsing in on itself. Inside, Hale's figure was lost to the flames. Rex barked furiously at the blaze. Ethan stared at it, chest heaving. The wall of names, gone. But the collar in his pocket still burned against his side, the word hope carved deep in metal. He whispered to himself, "What did you know, Hale? What were you trying to tell me?" Snow fell heavier, smothering the flames until the fire hissed out. The cabin was nothing but charred beams, glowing faint in the dark. Rex pressed against his leg, steady and unshaken. Ethan exhaled, lowering his rifle. They turned back toward the road. The puppy would be waiting, and somewhere in the ashes of truth, another trail would lead them deeper. Behind them, the last timber collapsed, sparks rising into the night like ghosts of names no one would ever read again. The storm swallowed the last embers of the burning cabin. Ethan Cole walked back through the woods, snow crunching under his boots. His rifle hung low at his side. Rex, the German Shepherd K9, stayed close, head turning constantly, ears alert. Ethan's coat smelled of smoke. His chest still heaved from the fight with Marcus Hale, the ex-soldier who carved children's names into wood like scars. Hale was gone, consumed by fire and madness, but the words he spat still rang in Ethan's ears. "That tag will haunt you, just like it haunted me." In his pocket, the collar pressed against his thigh. The name carved there, Hope, felt heavier than steel. When the cabin came into sight, Ethan let out a long breath. Warm light flickered behind frosted windows. Inside, the puppy would be waiting. That tiny life had no idea how much blood had already been spilled in its name. He pushed the door open. Heat from the fire washed over him. The puppy stirred on the blanket, weak but alive. Its small eyes blinked, reflecting the firelight. "You made it," Ethan muttered. He knelt, scooping the pup into his arms. The tiny heart thudded fast against his chest. Rex leaned close, sniffing, then licked the pup's ear gently. For a moment, the cabin felt safe again, but Ethan knew better. He set the puppy back down and pulled the collar from his pocket. Turning it over in the firelight, he traced the carved letters again. Hope, his daughter's name, his daughter's ghost. He remembered Walter Briggs's dying words. The collars, everyone carried a name, a warning, a memory. Ethan swallowed hard. Hale had built an entire system of remembrance, children lost, abandoned, forgotten. But why was Hope's name among them? She wasn't lost. She was alive, somewhere, unless... The thought made his throat tighten. He shook his head. He couldn't believe it, not without proof. He spread the map across the table again, tracing the coordinates from the tag. The burned cabin was marked, but what if there were more? Hale had been a soldier. Soldiers planned. They built networks, caches, fallback points. If the collars were part of his ritual, there could be others hidden in the woods. The storm pounded against the windows. Ethan stared into the fire, the collar cold in his palm. Rex suddenly lifted his head, ears snapping toward the door. A growl rumbled deep in his chest. Ethan froze. A knock echoed, slow, deliberate. Ethan's rifle was in his hands before he realized it. "Who's there?" he barked. No answer, only the wind. Rex growled louder, body stiff. The puppy whimpered, curling into the blanket. Ethan moved to the door, finger brushing the trigger. He flung it open. Snow blasted inside. No one stood there, only darkness. Then he saw it, an object on the porch, half buried in snow. He stepped forward, heart hammering. Rex stayed glued to his side. Ethan bent and lifted the object. Another collar. This one smaller, newer. The leather still supple, the tag shining in the dim light. Ethan brushed off the snow. The name carved into the metal made his stomach twist. Ava. Not his daughter's name, but another child, another message. He turned it over, more coordinates scratched into the back. Another place in the woods. Ethan's knuckles whitened on the tag. Someone else was alive out there, someone carrying on Hale's twisted mission. He stepped back inside, bolting the door. His hands trembled as he laid both collars side by side on the table. Hope. Ava. 2 names, 2 trails. Rex sat close, eyes fixed on his partner, sensing the storm raging inside him. Ethan rubbed his temples, whispering, "Why children's names? Why mine? Why now?" He looked at the puppy sleeping by the fire, its breathing shallow but steady. Whoever left the new collar had come right to his door, close enough to touch the walls of his cabin. They knew he was here. They wanted him to keep following the trail. The soldier in him wanted to push forward, to find whoever was still out there, carving names into steel and leather. But the father in him, the part that still remembered Hope's laughter, wanted to tear the collars apart and throw them into the fire. He couldn't. Not yet. The truth was still unfinished. Ethan opened his locket again, staring at the photograph of Sarah holding baby Hope. The image blurred as his eyes burned. "I'll find the truth," he whispered, "even if it breaks me." The wind howled louder outside, shaking the cabin. Sparks jumped from the fire. The puppy stirred, whimpering in its sleep. Ethan pressed both collars into his palm, their cold edges biting into his skin. Hope. Ava. 2 names, 2 shadows. And outside, in the dark storm, someone was still watching. Snow crunched faintly beyond the porch, footsteps circling the cabin, then fading into the night. Dawn barely touched the horizon, a pale grey bleeding into the storm clouds. Ethan Cole stood over the map on his cabin table, both collars lined up before him. Hope. Ava. 2 names, 2 trails. His fingers traced the new set of coordinates scratched into the back of Ava's tag. They led northeast, deeper into the forest than last night's ruins. Somewhere remote, somewhere chosen. Rex, his German Shepherd K9, sat ready by the door, tail stiff, eyes locked on Ethan. The dog sensed it, another mission. The puppy lay curled on the blanket near the fire, its tiny chest rising and falling, fragile but stronger than before. Ethan strapped on his gear, rifle across his back, knife at his belt, extra rounds pocketed. He slipped both collars into his coat. The cold weight pressed against his ribs like unfinished questions. Before leaving, he crouched by the puppy. "Stay alive, little one. We'll be back." He left a bowl of water and a piece of bread softened in milk. The pup licked weakly, tail twitching. Ethan straightened. "Rex, with me." The storm had calmed, leaving the silence heavier than noise. Snow crunched under their boots and paws as they followed the compass into the northeast woods. The trees closed around them, skeletal hands reaching from the sky. Hours passed, the air thickened with stillness. No birds, no distant animals, only the wind shifting through branches. Ethan knew that kind of silence. It was the silence of traps. Finally, the coordinates led them to a clearing. In its center stood another structure, not a cabin this time, but a bunker dug into the earth. Its entrance was framed with rusted steel, half covered in snow. No smoke, no sound, just a door, heavy and waiting. Rex growled, nose low to the ground. His tail stiffened. Ethan scanned the tree line, rifle raised. Nothing moved. Whoever left the collar on his porch had guided him here deliberately. He approached the steel hatch. Rust flaked under his gloves. He pulled, and the door groaned open with a shriek. Darkness waited inside. He flicked on his flashlight, beam cutting through stale air. The bunker was narrow, concrete walls dripping with moisture. Symbols were scratched across them, marks, words, dozens of names again, but these weren't etched in wood. They were burned into metal plates, bolted to the walls like gravestones. Ethan's stomach twisted. He walked deeper, the beam shaking slightly in his hand. Rex stayed close, body low, growling at every echo. The corridor opened into a larger chamber. Tables lined the room. On them lay dozens of collars, each one tagged, each with a name carved. Children's names, piled neatly, row by row like inventory. Ethan froze. His hand pressed the wall to steady himself. Hope, Ava, Lily, Sophia, Emma. Names he recognized, names he didn't. Every tag told a story, and none had a happy ending. He picked one up. The leather was new, the carving fresh. Whoever had made it was still active, still marking. Rex barked, suddenly sharp and urgent. Ethan swung the beam toward the corner. A figure sat chained to the wall. A girl, thin, pale, no older than 10. Her eyes blinked weakly against the light. Ethan rushed forward, kneeling. "It's okay. I'm here to help." Her lips trembled. "Are you a soldier?" He nodded. "Yes, you're safe now." He pulled a canteen from his pack, guiding it to her lips. She drank greedily, coughing. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She whispered, "Ava." Ethan's chest went cold. He pulled the collar from his coat. It was the same name, same carving. This wasn't coincidence. He unclipped her chains, lifting her carefully into his arms. She was light as air, bones sharp against his grip. Rex circled protectively, eyes on the darkness. "Who did this to you?" Ethan asked. Ava's eyes welled with tears. "The man with the fire. He said, if I wore the collar, my name would never be forgotten." She buried her face in Ethan's shoulder. "I just want to go home." Ethan held her close, rage boiling under his ribs. Hale might be gone, but his legacy lived on. Others were continuing his twisted mission. A sound echoed through the bunker, metal boots on concrete, slow, purposeful. Ethan spun, rifle raised, Ava shielded behind his shoulder. Rex growled, teeth bared. From the shadows of the corridor, another man appeared, younger than Hale, but the resemblance was there. Same eyes, same stride. His coat bore a patch torn from military camouflage. "You weren't supposed to find this place so soon," the man said calmly. "But since you did, we'll add your name to the wall." Ethan's finger tightened on the trigger. The chamber filled with silence, broken only by Ava's whisper in his ear. "Please don't let him take me back." The bunker air thickened with the smell of rust and damp concrete. Ethan Cole stood firm, rifle raised, Ava clinging to his side, and Rex, his German Shepherd K9, crouched low, with teeth bared. The man stepping from the shadows was younger than Hale, but carried the same fire in his eyes. His voice was steady, unnerving. "You don't understand, soldier. Hale wasn't insane. He was chosen. We're the keepers of memory. The world discards children. We collect them. Their names live forever." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You don't preserve them. You brand them. You turn their pain into monuments to your obsession." The man smirked. "And what about you? You left your daughter, didn't you? Went off to fight while she grew up without you. Do you even know if she still says your name? You and I, we're the same." The words dug like knives, but Ethan didn't flinch. He leveled his rifle. "No, the difference is I came back, and I'll fight for the living, not carve names into steel and pretend it means love." The man's smirk faded. "Then you'll die with the others." He raised his weapon. The bunker erupted. Ethan shoved Ava behind a table, diving sideways as the shot cracked past his ear. Rex lunged, teeth sinking into the man's arm, dragging his aim off target. Ethan rolled, fired, the muzzle flash cutting the dark. The bullet slammed into the concrete, showering sparks. The man kicked Rex back, swinging his rifle down. Ethan fired again. This time, the round tore into the man's leg. He staggered, snarling, but didn't fall. "You can't stop us!" he shouted. Blood darkened the floor beneath him. "For every name you burn, 10 more will be carved." Ethan advanced, eyes hard. "Not while I breathe." The man raised his rifle for one final shot. Rex leapt, jaws clamping onto his wrist. The gun went off, the round burying harmlessly in the ceiling. Ethan didn't hesitate. He fired once, clean. The man dropped, weapon clattering, body crumpling against the wall of nameplates. The sound echoed, then faded into silence. Ethan lowered his rifle, chest heaving. Rex released the man's wrist, fur bristling, but steady. Ava peeked from behind the table, eyes wide. "It's over," Ethan said, voice steady. "You're safe now." He gathered her into his arms. She trembled, but clung to him, face pressed against his shoulder. "I thought he'd never stop," she whispered. Ethan's throat tightened. "He has. You're going home." But as he looked around the bunker, his chest ached. Dozens of collars still lined the tables, dozens of names, children who had been lost, taken, or remembered in ways they never chose. He gathered as many as he could into his pack. These names deserved more than a tomb in the dark. They deserved light. Together they left the bunker. Snow blinded them as they emerged, but it felt cleaner than the suffocating air below. Ava leaned against Ethan's shoulder, Rex close at his side. The walk back was slow. Every step reminded Ethan of the names burned into his memory. Hope, Ava, and so many more. When they reached the cabin, the puppy stirred awake on its blanket. Its tail wagged faintly, tiny body stronger than before. Ava knelt, stroking its fur, smiling through tears. Ethan set his rifle aside. For the first time in years, the weight on his shoulders eased. He opened the locket at his chest, Sarah's photograph gazing back at him. He whispered, "I kept my promise." He knew the fight wasn't over. There would be others like Hale, others who twisted grief into obsession. But tonight, one child was safe, and that was enough to keep going. He hung the collars by the fire, not as trophies, but as reminders. Every name was a call to protect the living, every tag a vow. Rex rested his head on Ethan's boot, eyes closing in peace. Ava fed the puppy scraps of bread, her laughter breaking through the heavy silence. Ethan watched them, heart heavy but steady. Healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant building forward, even from ashes. Outside, the storm cleared. A thin light broke through the clouds, spilling silver across the snow. Ethan whispered, "Hope." The word no longer cut. It carried him. And as the first sunbeam touched the collars, their steel glowed faintly, like names finally brought back into the light.